Okay, so today what I want to do is I want to work on my default home page. So I powered on both machines. I have both my web server and my development box on. Currently I'm looking at my web server, which is my Ubuntu. The IP address is 10.4.132.57. So I'm on my development machine. I powered on PHP Storm. My web server is my IP address hadn't changed. Now yours may have changed, so if for whatever reason yours changed, which is very common, you click on this ellipsis and you can actually go in and configure your web server settings. So right here you just change your IP address. When you change that, it would automatically change down here as well. I'm going to keep it the same just because I don't want to change it. But that if yours did change, that's what you would do. And then it would automatically connect up. So at this point, we do have an index.html page. That index.html page is what came along when we installed Apache. So if I go to my web browser and I go to my web server's address, this is the default home page that Apache automatically throws up. So what we want to do is we want to build our own home page. What I'm thinking is laying something out like this. So I'd like to have a header and I'd like to have a footer. So my header may have like my name on it, whatever business I was creating would be that name. Probably some type of copyright or something towards the bottom. The left-hand side is going to be my navigation, so I'm going to have links going down the left-hand side. And then I'm going to have a body area. And I actually debated if I wanted the body to stretch all the way over to the right, but I decided that I'm going to just create a little space here that's just going to be dead space. So that way, like if I put an image or something, it will line up centered with the top banner. So that's kind of my thought right now. As we work through it, I may kind of switch it up a little bit. But that's the kind of style that I want to lay out for my home page. So I'm just going to start jumping in and doing some coding here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kill this index page. I'm just going to delete my local index.html page because that's what Apache provided, and we don't need this. This is something that I'm just going to delete out. It's nice to know that it was in there. It was nice to know our web server was working. So at this point, we know it's working, but we don't need this moving forward. So I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to put my own index in, but I don't want to do an index.html. I want to do an index.php. So what I'm going to do is I am going to right-click right on my PHP class folder, and I want to add a new file, and it's going to be a PHP file. So I'm just going to go click on my PHP file, and I'm going to call it index. So I'm going to say OK. So the way a web server works is if it's like an Apache, yeah, I'm going to add this to our Git repository. So if we're running Apache, typically Apache uses index.html, excuse me, index.php. If you're using a Windows like IIS, that's a different web server, they go with like the default.html, default.html, stuff like that. Now you can obviously add your own extensions in and stuff like that, but for this class, as long as we have this index.php, that's all we need. So to start with, I'm actually just going to delete everything out of this file, and we're going to lay it out just as a static HTML file, which we can easily do, and it will work because PHP is an extension of HTML. So everything that you can do in HTML can be included inside a PHP file. So that's kind of nice. So I'm going to start with my doc type. I'm just going to create a tag for doc type. And the doc type is going to be HTML. And then I'm going to do an HTML language. And that's going to be EN for English. Okay, so then that's my HTML tag. Inside my HTML tag, I need my head area. And then I also need a body area. Okay, so this is my main layout. So I've got my head and my body. Within the head area, there's some common tags that we're going to want. So if we wanted to be, really strict, we can add in the meta char set. I'm just going to do it just because it's probably best to include it. And the char set that we're going to be using is UTF-8, which is just the character type. It's something that you'll commonly see. It just helps the browser know how to render the page correctly. Okay, so we're going to do a title. And then I'm just going to call this thing Joe's homepage. So it's going to be the title up in the tab. And then my body. I'm going to add some common things within my body. I am going to create a head, actually a header. And then I'm also going to create a nav for my navigation. So these are some HTML5 tags. And then I'm going to use a main for my content. Then I'm going to do my footer. So all of these here inside my body. All right, so I've got my header, my nav, my main, my footer. So if I look over here, that's exactly what I'm laying out. I've got my header, I've got my navigation, I've got my main area. This I'm not going to do anything with. I'm just going to leave it dead. And then I've got my footer down here. If I were going to maybe like put banner ads or something there, then I'd probably create another div tag or something to put in there. Okay, so within my header, I'm going to just do an H1. And I'm going to, again, use Joe's homepage. No, if your name's Steve, I'd probably have like Steve's homepage. So just kind of make it personal to yourself. All right, so I've got my homepage. And then, actually, I'm going to make a website. So what my thought is a homepage is your landing page, which technically we are working on our homepage. But I really want this layout here to be consistent across every one of your assignments. So every one of your assignments will have the header. Every one of your assignments will have the navigation. So the navigation will be like laid out with homepage, and then your assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3. So probably like looped demo, countdown demo. We'll work through like database demo, So we're going to work in that navigation. So that way I can like click on any one of these and it'll give me a consistent navigation throughout the entire website. Okay, so I'm just going to go with the easy stuff first. My footer, I'm going to do a copyright. So that's going to be my and then COPY. And then a semicolon at the end. That's going to give me my little copyrights logo. and then it's going to be, 2000, whatever the year is, 2020. And then it's going to be joewetzel.com. You can make up whatever you want here. But I just want to have some type of a copyright that'll be, consistent. So I think the next thing would be my navigation. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of room here. Navigation typically is done within like an unordered list, like a bulleted list. That's become a very common way of dealing with navigations. Way back everybody had images and it was heavy and took a long time to load. The gift of CSS has given us the ability to create things that look like buttons, work like buttons, but they're just HTML tags. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create an unordered list. And then inside the unordered list, ordered lists are numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unordered are bulleted. Inside the unordered list, we have list items, LIs. So I'm just going to create a hyperlink in here. So it's going to be an ahref. And I'm going to just do a / to go to our home page. And I'm just going to say home page. And then I'm going to do another list item. I just want to get a couple items in here, even though we haven't done this yet. I just want to give us just something that will look consistent, because we just need content. So I'm going to do another href. For right now, I'm just going to put a $sign in there. Eventually, I'm going to map that to, we're going to do a loop demo. So I'm going to go loop. And this stuff might change. All right, so that's going to be my loop demo. Then I'm going to do one more, just that way I've got a couple. Another list item and another href. So these are hyperlinks. I'm just going to do the $sign just because I don't have it figured out yet, but at some point we'll create it. And I'm going to just say countdown. At some point we're going to start dealing with math, and we're going to want to have a countdown timer. Okay, so I've got some navigation set up. Actually, it's not navigation yet. It kind of is. It's a bulleted list with hyperlinks in it, so it's navigation. Just doesn't look really good. Okay, so then I've got my main content. For right now, I'm just going to throw a p tag in here. Let's say info goes here. So I'm going to save this. And then I am going to upload this. So now the PHP, the index PHP came over here. If I go back over to my web browser, Ubuntu page is here. That's just cached. If I refresh it, there we go. All right, not the best looking website, but it's the beginning. All right, so we're going to have to use some styles and CSS to get this cleaned up. So that's where I'm going to go next. Now, I know you may not have had CSS, or you may not be strong at CSS, and to be honest with you, I'm not the strongest at CSS either. I'm more of a programmer than a style person. So I'm going to have a minimal site, but I think it's very important that anybody that's in the web field, you need to know CSS. You need to know HTML. You need to know PHP. You got to get the basics. Now you may specialize in CSS, and that's great. But if you're a programmer, you're gonna have to get this. And even if you know how to just Google, like go to Google and type in CSS center image, you're gonna have to figure some of this stuff out. So that's what we're gonna do. Is we're just gonna kind of lay this out so that way this information is laid out more like this. So I want this to be more here, my navigation to be there. This content needs to float over there, so I'm going to use a floating layout, and then my copyright is going to be down here. So I'm going to create a folder that is going to hold my CSS. I'm just going to call this CSS. And since I'm here, I'm going to create another folder that's going to create my images. Because I'm sure I'm going to have images. So everything's lowercase. And then in my CSS, I'm going to create a new file that's going to be a style sheet. And I'm just going to call this thing base. That's going to be my base. And yes, I will add that. And I'm going to just say, don't ask me anymore. If I'm adding something, automatically add it into GitHub for me. Okay, so my base for right now is created. I'm going to go back over to my index.php page. In the head, I want to link these two things up. So I need to use the link tag. And I still use rel. I don't think we have to anymore. I think that's actually been deprecated out of HTML5. We used to have to say rel is style sheet. But then what we do is we say type. And the type is text.css, which is redundant. So I still do it just out of habit. But I think we can get away with not doing that anymore. So I've got my CSS folder, and I should have a base in here, base.css. Okay, so I created a link from my index page to my CSS page. So I'm going to save this, and then I want to upload my index.php page. So I'm just going to right click and upload to server. And then my base page here, I'm going to just start with my header. So since it's just an element, I can just go header. And I can apply a style directly on that specific selector. I'm going to set my width. I'm going to set that to 100%. All right, so I'm going to take up the entire width, and then I'm going to float it left. So I'm just going to use my float, and I'm going to swap out my font. I want that to actually be Georgia. There we go. And then let's center that. Text align center. And then just so that way you can see this, some people are very visual and some people need help with that. So I am going to just do background color. And I'm just going to pick a color. I'll use aqua for now. I want George's. I'm just going to save that. And then I'm going to upload that base CSS. Oh, what did I do? Font family? That's why. I was trying to figure out why that was red. My font family is. There we go. So I'm just going to save that and upload it. Not a big fan of when I see red on my screen. Okay, so if I refresh this, okay, so you can see how big it is. All right, so it changed my font for me. It's taking the 100% of my width here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to work on my navigation. Now, I'm going to remove these colors. For me, sometimes it's really hard to visually see how big a tag is, on my screen. So I'm going to go back over here. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just work on my nav. Okay, so my nav, that's not going to be as big. So if I look at this picture, I just want this much of it. I don't know, roughly guessing, I'm going to say that's about 20% of the whole thing. So I'm going to set my width to 20%. I'm going to float it left. And then I'll set my background color. Probably would have been easier just to type it. 2. Doesn't matter what color, it just needs to have a color so that way I can see visually how that appears. So I'm going to upload that to my server. So I'm going to refresh this. Okay, so I can see my navigation's there. All right, everything else floated, so it's slammed over and it's taking up this additional space here. So then I've got my info goes here. So I'm going to come back over here. So then my next thing would be my main. Okay, so if this is 20 and I want this to be centered, then that would mean that this is 20, which would be 40, which would give me 60 for the middle. So I'm just going to make this 60. And I can always adjust these numbers, but that's going to be my first stab at this, 60%. Okay, so I need to float left. And I'm going to make my font size large because I want it to stand out. And then I'm going to use a background color. Go with kind of a green. I'm going to save that and upload it. So there's my 60%. So now I want my copyright to slam down at the bottom. I don't want to do anything here. I'm just going to leave that vacant. Because I may eventually, because I could go to 80% if I wanted to. I just don't want the text to be like way over on the right hand side. I want it to be a little bit more just in the center of the screen. So I'm going to pop that copyright down below. The way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to work on my footer. And I'm going to set my width. And I'm going to set my width to 100%, just like the top. Alright, so then my footer, I'm also going to float left. I'm going to center that as well, so that's going to be my text alignment. Now, since it's a copyright, I want it to actually be smaller. So I'm just going to go font size, and then I'm just going to go small. And then my font weight, I want it to be bold. That way it'll be there and it'll kind of pop out a little bit. So I'm just going to save this. I'm going to upload. Refresh. No, I didn't do a background color. You see that popped down. Just gonna I use the same color, so but you can see now how that worked. So 100% of that couldn't fit within that 20%, so since I'm floating it left, it actually dropped down here. It couldn't fit there, so then it dropped down below. So that's the way that's laid out. So right now, I mean, it's pretty close. I mean, it's not 100%, but this is what I'm working with. That's kind of the idea that I have. So I'm going to remove all those background colors just so that way it'll look a little bit better. Alright, so I'm just going to remove the background colors. For me, when I'm laying something out, it's just a little bit easier when I can visually see what I'm doing. Some people can just do this all in their head, and I applaud them. That's not me. Okay, so I think the next thing I'm going to do, So I want to get more content in here. So I'm going to just get an image. So I'm going to steal an image off of my Facebook or my Twitter account. So I'm just going to go to my Twitter. So I'm just going to grab an image. So if you can grab an image, that would be great. I'm just going to save it to my desktop. All right, so if I move this to the side, I'm just going to rename this image to Joe. Then I'm going to drag it into my images folder. It's got that little red line around it. I'm going to say OK. So it moved it. So now I've got my image here. Now I'm going to go over to my got info goes here with a p tag right above the p tag. I'm just going to add in an image tag, an img tag. Actually, I'm going to relative im images / Joe. That's good. Okay, so I've got an image in there. I'm going to do some alt text. So that way if somebody's using a screen reader or something, they can see that it's a picture of Joe. And then I'm going to just close this tag up. Okay, so I want to get more text in here as well. So you can just make text up. You can write some text about yourself. I'm just going to go to joewetzel.com. So instead of you watching me type information about myself, I'm just going to steal some information I already wrote. I'm just going to grab a paragraph here. And I'm just going to put that right inside this p tag. So if you just put a little blurb about yourself, that would be great. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to upload this. Because I need to have something. I need to start somewhere. I need some information to work with. Joe's homepage. If I refresh this, oh, I gotta click on the right file. I need to click on my index.php file, and I need to upload that. And then if I take a look, refresh it. Okay, so picture of Joe. I've got a broken image, so I'm gonna upload my image. I didn't upload the image, so I'm gonna go over to my image, click on that, and then I need to upload the image to the web server. And then I'm going to refresh this. All right, so that's a pretty big image. So I think I want to make the image smaller, and I want to center that image. So I think that's going to be the next thing I'm going to tackle here. So what I can do through my CSS is the image is in the main. So I'm just going to kind of group this stuff together to help me stay a little bit organized. My main has an img tag inside of it. So I have the ability to specifically say, if I did this, it would be every image on the website. All right, I may have more images on the website, and I don't want to manipulate all the images. I only want to manipulate the one image I have inside the main. So if I did main space image, then it would only be images inside the main. Now if I had multiple images inside the main, and I wanted each one to be different, then I would need to do it either with an ID, the pound sign, or I would need to do it with a class, the period. So, but for right now, this is exactly what I need to do. So my image, I'm just going to make the image, I'm just going to set the width of that image to be 250 pixels. That should be a pretty good size. I'm going to do display block. And then I'm also going to do my margin 0 space auto. That should center that up for me. So I'm just going to save this. And I'm going to upload. I'm going to take a look at that. Oh, I worked on my style sheet, so I actually need to upload my CSS, so I'm going to stay on that. I'm going to upload. There we go. It's a little bit smaller. It's laid out in a way that looks good. I think that'll work for me. Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of padding around this, and I think I'm going to indent the first line a little bit. So I'm going to just manipulate my p tag. So I'm going to go back into here. So that's still within the main. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go main space p, and then I'm going to put my brackets in there. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to create a margin top. And I'm just going to say 30 pixels. Just going to create a little bit of wiggle room in there. Sometimes I look at it, play with it, and make it up and down or whatever. All right, so it's called text indent. Hyphen indent. Yep. Text hyphen indent. And that I'm just going to indent it 25 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. I'm just going to save that. I'm going to upload that. So I'm going to refresh. Okay, so I got a little bit of wiggle room around there. That's kind of nice. It indents that first line. I think that's good. So this part of it is getting pretty tight. My navigation, I want to work with that. I want to make that actually look like buttons and make that navigation a little bit smoother. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to put a comment just because my CSS is going to start getting kind of long and complicated. I'm going to use the block style comment where it's going to be the /*, and then I'm just going to say main layout */, and then I'm going to come down towards the bottom here, and now I'm going to start dealing with my menus. So I'm just going to go menus. Okay, so my menus, I'm going to start with my unordered list. So I'm going to do my UL for unordered list. And what I want to do is I want to make the list style, the type of it equal to none. So that way it's not going to act as a bulleted list. So it's going to be list style type is none. So basically I'm going to be getting rid of like the bullets. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my margin to 0. And then I'm going to set my padding to 0 as well. And then I'm going to make the entire UL, not the individual items, but the box that's holding all of the list items. I want to make that box 200 pixels. So I'm going to make my width 200 pixels. So I want that box to stand out a little bit. So I am going to add a background color for real here. And I'm just going to go like with my F1, F1, F1. And I got to do it as a hex, so it's going to start with the pound sign. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to upload that. It's going to refresh it. Okay, so now you can see I've got a box here. I got rid of all of the bullets. Everything's tight to the left. All right, so there's no padding in there. But I still have my hyperlinks. So this is where I'm going to work next. Is I'm going to really focus in on the hyperlinks themselves to make that look more like individual buttons. All right, so within the UL, I'm going to go UL space A, because I've got the A tags, the anchor tags, inside that unordered list. Actually, specifically, I've got an LI, which is a list item. There's an A tag inside the item itself. Okay, so the display is going to be block. All right, so some are inline display types and some are block style. So for example, a span tag or an anchor tag, a hyperlink. You can have a hyperlink in the middle of a paragraph, okay? You could put a span tag in the middle of a paragraph and it won't like mess things up. Some things are block, which means that they take up the entire span of row. So I don't know if you've ever tried doing like an H3 tag in a paragraph, and you'll notice that it'll break the paragraph above and below the H3 tag. So you'll have like the paragraph above it, and then you have the entire line is just going to be the H3, and then the paragraph below it. And that's because that display is a block style. So you have inline, which won't mess the paragraph up, and then you have block style, which says this individual item is going to take up the entire block of space. Okay, so I'm going to add some color. All right, so I'm going to do a hex again, and I'm going to just go 0, 0, 0. All right, so I've got some color. Now I'm going to deal with my padding. And my padding is going to be 8 pixels, space, 0 pixels, space, 8 pixels, space, 16 pixels. Okay, so the way that this is working is I've got a little bit of padding on the top. I've got no padding to the right. I've got a little bit of padding on the bottom. And then I got a bunch of padding on the left-hand side. Okay, so now I do have a hyperlink that is underlined. I want to get rid of the underline. So that's going to be my text decoration. And that's going to be none. So I'm just going to save this. Let's see what we've got here. So I'm just going to refresh this. Okay, so it's looking a little bit better. What I want to do now is I want to make it so when I hover over these things, they will kind of light up a little bit. I want to center them because I think it kind of looks a little goofy being left aligned. Might change my mind after I see it, but I think that's going to be where I'm going to go. Okay, so I'm going to continue on here, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to put another comment here. I'm just going to call it menu hover. Just that way we get an idea of what we're working on. Okay, so I've got a list item. Inside the list item, I've got an A tag. Now, if I want to get into a property or a specific event that happens on an object like this, you use a colon. And then there is a hover event. So if the hover is happening, then you can do this style. So if it's hovering, we're going to do background color. And this time, I'm going to go with my 5s. 5, 5, 5. And my 4 color is going to be white. Okay, so my text will be white, and then when I hover it, the background color will be a darker color, kind of a charcoalish. All right, so I want to put a border around the entire UL. Just that way that kind of stands out like a menu border. And I'm just going to do a thin 1 pixel border that's going to be solid. And I'm just going to make the color of that the same. I'm going to use my 5s here. I'll make it consistent. I was a little lazy. It's going to be the same color, but at least it'll look the same. Okay, so that's going to be the outer border around my menu. I want to center all the stuff too. So my list item is just going to be text align. Center. Okay, so that's all centered up. So I've got borders on each individual item. I want to get rid of my bottom border. So, So what I'm thinking is that each one of these, I'm going to put a bottom border on it, but I already put a border around this, so I'll have a double border on the bottom, so I need to deal with that. So let's first start by putting a border across each one of these, but only on the bottom. I just want it to look separated. So on my list item, I'm just going to do a border. But I only want to do a border on the bottom. So I'm going to do border hyphen bottom. So I'm going to separate each individual list item with the bottom border. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do that 1 pixel solid. And I'm going to do the pound sign, my 5s. But now the UL, the outer box, in the last list item, now we're going to have 2 bottom borders, which is going to make it thicker. So my list item also has a property that we can tap into, and it's going to be the last child. All right, so that's going to be the last list item in my unordered list. And there we can say the bottom, our border bottom, is equal to none. So we're just going to remove that. So I'm just going to save that. I'm going to upload that to the web server. I'm going to refresh this. There we go. Oh, that's good. So that kind of seems like a nice menu. So I've got my home page. If I click on it, I come back here. These we didn't set up yet. We just put pound signs in there. But we'll work on that. So this is going to be our template moving forward. So every single project will work off of this menu. So this will become large as we work through things. But the thing that's cool is you'll be able to click, and on any page you'll have this menu. We'll work on this more in the next video. We'll start working on like the loops and get into actual PHP, and we'll work on setting this up as a template. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the video.